Hello and welcome guys to a new episode on SportPredictorFanatic. Today we're going to predict the matches that are going to be played on the 2nd of October. Today there are 9 matches in the Champions League and also 2 Conference League matches, so the 2 starters of the Conference League. First I'm going to do the Champions League matches. I'm going to predict every match. Then I'm going to get into the betting part of that Champions League round, and then I'm going into the Conference League matches. I'm not going to do betting for that. I'm just going to do the prediction for that now. With that said, let's just get into it. The first matchup is Girona playing against Feyenoord. Girona have lost their first Champions League match with 1-0 against a PSG. Since then, they have lost against Valencia, drew against Rayo Vallecano, and last weekend also drew against Celta de Vigo. With that, Girona have now failed to win a match in the last 5. Feyenoord also lost their first match in the Champions League with 4-0 against Bayer Leverkusen. Since then, they won against NAC, but last weekend got away with a 1-1 draw against NEC Nijmegen, where actually I think NEC Nijmegen deserved the W. Girona and Feyenoord have never played each other before, and I think this is like a really hard matchup to predict as they're both kind of struggling at the moment. But I think especially Girona, who are normally pretty strong at home, and also I think have the slightly better team, so because of that I'm actually going to go for Girona. Then we have Shakhtar Donetsk playing against Atalanta. Shakhtar Donetsk drew their first Champions League match with 0-0 against Bologna. Since then they won in the league against Apollon, but last weekend in the league draw 1-1 against Viras Rivne. Atalanta also drew their first Champions League match with 0-0 against Arsenal. Since then, they lost against Como and last weekend got a 1-1 draw against Bologna. Shakhtar and Atalanta have played each other 3 times. In 2015, they played in a friendly where Shakhtar won the match. In 2019, they played each other twice in the Champions League group stage, where both times the away team won. With that, actually all 3 the times the away team has won. And I think even with Atalanta not looking the greatest at the minute, especially in away games, I still think they are going to be the better team here and get away with a W. So yeah, I'm actually going with another away victory for in this matchup. So Atalanta will win. Then we have Aston Villa playing against Bayern Munich. Aston Villa won their first Champions League match with 3-0 against Young Boys. Since then, they won against Wolves in the league. They won in the EFL Cup against Wycombe, but last weekend surprisingly actually drew 2-2 against Ipswich. Bayern Munich won their first Champions League match with a whopping 9-2 win against Dynamo Zagreb. Since then, they have won against Werder Bremen in the league, and last weekend drew against Bayer Leverkusen with 1-1. With that, they are still unbeaten this season. Aston Villa and Bayern have played each other once before. This was in 1982 in the European Cup final. So they actually played each other in the final. Aston Villa won this final 1-0, and I think Bayern Munich, although nobody, of course, there played in that particular match, I still think they would like some revenge for that. And I think they will get it, as Aston Villa has struggled their last matchup, while Bayern have looked pretty strong and looked pretty great, especially also last match against Bayer Leverkusen. So yeah, I'm actually going to go for a Bayern Munich win. Then we have Benfica playing against Atletico Madrid. Benfica won their first Champions League match with 2-1 against Red Star Belgrado. Since then, they won against Boa Vista in the league, and last weekend against Gil Vicente, they also won with 5-1. Atletico Madrid started Champions League with a 2-1 win over Red Bull Leipzig. Since then, they have played 3 league games where they first drew against Vallecano, then won against Celta, and last weekend drew against Real Madrid. where they of course scored in I think one of the last minutes of the game, and with that it became a draw. And with that, actually, Atletico Madrid are still unbeaten this season. Benfica and Atletico Madrid have played each other 3 times before. This was the first time was in a friendly in 2009, which was won by Atletico. The other 2 were in the Champions League of 2015, where they played each other in the group stage. And actually, both times the away team won 2-1. I think now Atletico are the stronger team, but Benfica is not in a bad form either, so I don't think it will be an easy matchup for them. But I do think Atletico has got the stronger squad and will get away with a W right there. Then we have Dynamo Zagreb playing against Monaco. Dynamo Zagreb lost their first Champions League match with 9-2 against Bayern. Then they also lost their first match back in the league against Slaven Belupo. Then won in the cup against Banjoli, and last weekend won in the league against Lokomotiv Zagreb. Monaco won their first Champions League match with 2-1 against Barcelona, of course held by an early red card from Barcelona. Since then, they won both league games they have played, with Le Havre and last weekend a 2-1 win over Montpellier. With that, Monaco are still unbeaten this season. Monaco and Dynamo Zagreb have never played each other before, and I think Monaco have looked way stronger with the team, but also with their form. So yeah, with that, I'm just going to go for Monaco. Then we have Lille playing against Real Madrid. Lille have lost their Champions League opener against Sporting with 2-0. Since then, they drew against Strasbourg in the league, and last weekend won 3-0 against Le Havre in the league. Real Madrid have won their Champions League opener with 3-1 against Stuttgart. Since then, they've played 3 games in the league with a win. First, a win over Espanyol and Alaves, but last weekend a 1-1 draw against Atletico Madrid, as said, a late equalizer. With that, they are still unbeaten this season. Lille and Real Madrid have never played each other before, but I of course think Real Madrid are the better team, have the better form. Although they did kind of struggle in away matches this season. They have played 4 away matches this season, and 3 of those were draws. And all those 3 draws are the only draws they have this season. The rest are all wins. But of course, I still think the difference between Lille and Real Madrid is too big, and because of that, I'm going to go for a Real Madrid win. Then we have Liverpool playing against Bologna. Liverpool started the Champions League with a 3-1 win over AC Milan. Since then, they won in the league against Bournemouth, won in the EFL Cup against West Ham, and then in the Premier League last weekend also won 2-1 against Wolves. Although I didn't find them too good looking in that matchup. Bologna drew their first Champions League match against Shakhtar Donetsk with 0-0. Since then, they won against Monza in the league, but last weekend drew 1-1 against Atalanta. Liverpool and Bologna have played each other 2 times. Both were friendly matches at the same day, so I think they were both like halves maybe. And Liverpool won both. I think Liverpool, of course, have the better team, have the better form, and with Liverpool also playing at home, I think this will be a W for Liverpool. Then we have Leipzig playing against Juventus. Leipzig have lost their first match in the Champions League with 2-1 against Atletico Madrid. Since then, they drew against St. Pauli in the league, and last weekend won 4-0 against Augsburg. Juventus won the first Champions League match with 3-1 against PSV. Since then, they drew against Napoli and won 3-0 against Genoa last weekend. With that, Juventus are still unbeaten this season. Leipzig and Juventus have never played each other before. And I think both teams are looking kind of good at the moment. Leipzig are mainly impressive. If they're impressive, they're mainly impressive on the attacking side of things, where Juventus are mainly impressive on the defensive side of things. I think this will be like a very close matchup, and because of that, I'm actually thinking of a 0-0 draw. But at least I'm thinking it's going to be a draw, either a 0-0 or 1-1. That's my prediction for that. Then we have Sturm Graz playing against Club Brugge. Sturm Graz lost their Champions League opener with 2-1 against Brest. Since then, they've played 3 league games where they first lost against Wolfsberger, then drew against Austria Vienna, and last weekend won 2-1 against Linz. Brugge also lost their Champions League opener with 3-0 against Dortmund, although must be said they have played really good that match until they conceded that goal. I think they were the better team. Since then they have lost against Gent in the league and last weekend also drew against Charleroi. Sturm Graz and Brugge have never played each other before, and I think Brugge does have the stronger squad here, although the form is definitely not optimal, but I think the form from both is not optimal coming into this matchup. So with that, I'm going for the stronger team, which is definitely Club Brugge. Then we get into the betting part. First, I'm going to say what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on 6 matches of the Champions League. The matches are Girona to win their matchup, the odds for that is 2.05. Atalanta to win their matchup, the odds for that is 1.7. Then Leipzig against Juventus to be a draw, the odds for that is 3.50. Then Atletico Madrid to win their matchup, the odds for that is 2.42. Monaco to win their matchup, the odds for that is 1.73. And Club Brugge to win their matchup, the odds for that is 2.60. What I'm going to do is I'm going to be putting €5 in total on this. I'm going to put on trebles. So there are 20 trebles. With that, 25 cents on each treble will make €5. That's what I'm going to do. And with that, I'm going to try and make some profit here. So yeah, let me know what you think of that. But now let's head into the Conference League matches that are going to be played as well. There are 2 of them. The first one is Başakşehir playing against Rapid Vienna. Başakşehir have made it into the Conference League by winning 3 of their qualifying matches. They first won 10-1 against La Fiorita with 10-1. On aggregate, then won 3-0 against Iberia 1999, then won 2-0 against St. Patrick's. In the league, they are also doing alright with 13 points from 6 games. Last weekend, Başakşehir won 2-1 against Sivasspor. Rapid Vienna are in the Conference League because they lost in the 3rd round of qualifying of the Europa League. They first won with 8-2 against Wisla, then won 3-0 against Trabzonspor, but last round they lost 4-3 against Braga. And with that, instead of the Europa League, they are playing Conference League. In the league, they are also doing quite well with 15 points from 8 games. Rapid are also unbeaten in their last 6 matches, so that's not bad for them. Başakşehir and Rapid have never played each other before. Başakşehir this season have never won a match, have won every match, they've played at home, while Rapid Vienna have only won 1 game from the last 5 away games. But I do think Rapid Vienna have the better team, but because of the form, I actually think it will become a draw. Then the last matchup, which is a Vitória Guimarães against Celje. Guimarães have qualified for the Conference League by winning the 3 qualifying rounds. First they beat Floriana with 5-0, then they beat Zurich also 5-0, and in the final of the qualifying they beat Zrinjski with 7-0. In the league they're also doing okay with 13 points from 7 games. Celje have had a pretty long road to go to the Conference League and a weird road. They first had Champions League qualification, where in the first round they actually beat Flora 7-1. Then they lost in the second round of the Champions League qualifying against Slovan Bratislava with 6-1. Because of that, they were now in the Europa League qualification, where they were up against Shamrock Rovers, where they lost eventually in the extra time. Then they had to play Conference League qualification, which of course they did win with 4-2 against Punic Yerevan. In the league, they are doing okay with 70 points from 10 games. Celje and Guimarães have played each other twice actually in 2023, where they played each other in the Conference League qualification, which was like a really close matchup with Celje winning on penalties eventually. Guimarães have looked pretty good at home this season, with only like wins at home, except for one match, which was the last home game, which was against, of course, Porto. So that's not really a shame for them. Celje, especially in Europe, haven't looked that good when they were playing away, and because of that, and just my lack of knowledge of Vitoria, Guimarães, and Celje, especially Celje, I'm going to go for a Guimarães win. So yeah, with that, we predict every match. Let me know what you think. But for now, I want to thank you all for watching. Please have a good day, and I will see you.